Well, I met James Mangold, the director and writer, a few years before. He was writing it, and he told me he was writing it, and I thought that was interesting. And then he called me about 2 years later and said, "Would you like to play this part?" And I said, "I thought June Carter was a little bit older than me." He said, "No, I'm doing it about the sort of their early parts of their career, so they were younger." And I was thrilled, so I was very excited. No, well, actually a little bit. When I was young, I wanted to be a Broadway kid, so I had gone to camp and learned all of the, had studied a little bit of music and acting, and they told me to sort of basically stick with the acting. The singing wasn't so good. So when they told me I had to sing in the movie, I was more than a little bit nervous. It was nerve-wracking. I shook the whole time I was on the movie. But I managed to somehow get the songs out and then crawl off stage and collapse in a heap of nerves. We did 6 months of rehearsal, which included voice lessons and instrument coaching and recording sessions. So it was sort of like making two different movies with the rehearsal process, and then we actually got to shoot the film. Well, that she was a very modern woman. I mean, the time that she was working, it wasn't very commonplace for a woman to be traveling around without her children. She was trying to be an entertainer and be a mom, and managing to try to have relationships and dealing with divorce in a place that wasn't seen as acceptable. So she was very modern in the sense that she really knew who she was, and she had a lot of strength of character. But I think meeting John and falling in love with John really gave her even more confidence. Yeah, I think you have to be really sort of tough. I think starting out as a young actor, when I came out here in the beginning, people would tell you weren't tall enough, or, you weren't right for this part, you're not right for that, please don't come back. And there's entire people who would never hire me. So you have to believe that you're good enough and you know what you're doing. So I think I think being in the public, just being seen and know that people are constantly judging you and your performances and whether or not they like your movies or don't like your movies, you have to be pretty tough. I think I really like the idea that they knew each other and they worked together for 12 years, but they couldn't be together, and that it took them 12 years to finally understand that they needed each other, and that there was no one without the other. Right. Well, it's interesting that they sang all these very intimate songs and performed so much together, but they weren't together. So it was sort of an interesting dynamic in their relationship, so that when they do ultimately come together, it's that much more exciting. It was great. He was wonderful. We started out sort of in a similar situation in that neither one of us had sung in a movie before or professionally at all. So we kind of grew through the rehearsal period, and I got to see him become John and really take on more and more of his personality and his mannerisms. And so it was nice. So once we got to actually make the film, we had known each other for 6 months, and we had sort of a good camaraderie. Well, Jim had spent a lot of time with John and June, and he knew them very well. So every time we had questions about their personal relationship and how things really happened, Jim would always sort of tell us little anecdotes about their lives that help us make it more personal. I just hope people like the film. I think it'll probably, for my part, I hope people are interested to see June Carter and her music, and I think a lot of people know John's music, but definitely June was an amazing performer, and I hope people are sort of interested in her albums.